Welcome to the stream.
Hi.
As if you're not here always. But hi, how are you?
I'm nervous.
Oh my God, I've never talked to you in real time before.
Shut up. Stop. Ma'am.
So if y'all don't know who this incredible human is, this is my partner in crime, my partner in life. Her name is Trish. Her username on most things, Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter, is Vladia Moore. But you can find her all over the internet also as House of Vladia. I think that your TikTok is House of Vladia.
It is. Etsy is House of Vladia.
The Etsy is where it's all at.
Ko-fi is House of Vladia, I think. You just asked me that yesterday.
Yes, Ko-fi is Vladia Moore.
Is it?
Yeah. That's why we have a link tree. So this is Trasha's beautiful art. I thought that there was a white one.
There is. It's just not in here.
Oh, okay. AKA Trash and Vladdy Daddy Pants.
Where did you grab those from?
They were sitting here. They were just sitting here.
I probably put them there when I was vacuuming, and I don't know where they fell from. That's funny.
And this is one of her DBD perk paintings.
It's Little Pop Goes the Wazo.
Little Pop Goes the Wazo. It's purple, but it looks kind of blue on screen, but it is dark purple. It's like a royal purple. And so
many aliases.
And so, yeah, Trasha is an artist. And so normally I have streamers on our Acco talk about it. But we thought as something to fall back on today, we could do a literal interview with Trasha. And I'm going to treat it exactly the way I would normally treat it. And so I would say normally, describe your content. What do you do and how do you identify? Because sometimes people aren't content creators. Sometimes people are streamers. Sometimes people are musicians, artists who happen to actually stream. So that is my first question to you is describe what you do.
What I do. Artist of all trades, master of very few. I mean that wholeheartedly. Erin knows I have a collection of pretty much you name it. I own that type of art supply, just to like kind of experiment with stuff. If I have an idea, I've been like this since I was a kid. If I have an idea, I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do the thing. I want to learn how to do the thing. So let me buy all the things, do it exactly 1 or 2 times. And if I'm really good at it, then gifted kid syndrome kicks in and I, continue on. And then if I'm not, I abandon it for a while. And so I have a wealth of art supplies that I over the years have dabbled more into. And I'm not a streamer. I'm not a streamer because I'm here. I have a camera, I have a drum pad, I have a microphone, I sing with you whether you like it or not sometimes. Yeah, if I had to pigeonhole myself though, I would just say I'm an artist of all trades, .com.
I think that's great. I think that's a really good I think that's a really good description. Because you do literal art and you do actual music as well.
I do. And Arma, what's funny is that in the same, following that whole notion of if I have an idea, I have to execute it. For Christmas for Erin in 2020, she has a bag of old Barbie dolls that came from her mom's house. And I was just going through it one day and I'm like, this would make a cool, it was a Ken doll. I'm like, this would make a cool Legion doll from Legion from Dead by Daylight. And then was just going through others and found an actual Barbie with neon green overalls and a crop top long sleeve shirt. And I'm like, okay, this would make a cool Leslie Vernon from Behind the Mask of Leslie Vernon. Mm-hmm. So for Christmas that year for her, I created 3 different dolls. One of the Legion from Dead by Daylight, one of Spirit from Dead by Daylight. And
I love the Spirit.
One of Leslie Vernon from Behind the Mask of Leslie Vernon, the horror film. And they all involved me having to sculpt a mask for Legion and for Leslie Vernon and sculpt a scythe, little hand things that you for hay or wheat or whatever on a farm. And it was my first time where I'm like, I guess I'm going to use some clay and see how this goes. And pick a time that she's doing laundry or something to like bake it in the oven so it sets, you know. And
Which, I mean, to be fair, pre-pandemic, I was almost never home.
yeah. And so during the
So.
pandemic, I was like, this is not easy. You got to go do laundry.
Yeah.
But and what's even more interesting is that for the next music video, I have to sculpt something as well. So, which I have a pound of foam sculpt clay
Oh, I meant to tell the band about that. I forgot.
downstairs that I've never used before. My brother has. My brother used to work with it all, similar product all the time in the early 90s. And, which I already told him, like, I'm going to have a million questions, because this is my next project.
That kind of answers Armut's question, though, in a roundabout way.
That's what I
saying
mean.
That.
It's like, it's funny that you ask, because there's small things with clay, and then now I actually have a full-fledged, like, prosthetic, if you will, that I have to make. So
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
it's interesting, because so many things, like even sculpting, if you will. I used to make my own Halloween special effects, like wounds and stuff. I turned myself into a robot ish for a Halloween karaoke party at my old job, and cut up an old USB cord from an iPad and made like with liquid latex and like toilet paper and construction paper and hot glue and like stuff like that, and just kind of like layered it, built it, applied it with spirit gum, like, because why the hell not? So yeah, I've sculpted many things and have ideas for other things, and it all just kind of happens. It's like, I have an idea, let's do it. It's like absolutely nobody type of situation.
So I know you mentioned this, and a lot of people probably don't know. So it's kind of a loaded question. So you mentioned that your brother had a lot to kind of do with you being like, okay, you kind of know how to do this. How do I kind of approach this? What do I do? And so a lot of people don't really know a whole lot about your brother, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, your brother is kind of the reason you are a creative soul in a lot of ways. And so when did you start to get into art, creating art yourself? Exactly. Do you remember?
So if I had to find a reference point, so first off, my brother is 14 years older than me. So he 14 and a half. And when he was in college, he was actually going to Eastern Michigan University art school, which at the time in the early 90s, if you couldn't get into the College of Creative Studies, which is downtown and cost an arm and a leg and like 3 unborn children, then you went to Eastern's art program, because at the time they had the best in the state. And
which I didn't even know. I went to Eastern.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Well, 1993.
That's fair. Yeah.
And so he was an art student for many years, and he would have various projects and stuff. You know, it's kind of, the art school is no different than any other sort of program in college where you have your prerequisites for your program, and instead of like having to take a foreign language and the intro to communications and this and that and the other, he had to do like intro to watercolors and sculpting, and everybody is required to take the nude drawing class and things like that. So he would, you know, obviously had homework and stuff that he brought home and a wealth of art supplies. And I distinctly remember, I don't know if it was the class focused on like chalk and pastel pigment, or if that was just like a project that he was working on, but it was for school that he turned into a Christmas present for my parents. And he did a portrait of him, myself, my mom, and my dad, like a group shot portrait based off of a picture of each of my mom and dad. I was supposed to sit still, couldn't sit still, so he used a yearbook picture for me, and then he looked in a mirror for himself. And I desperately wanted to do what he was doing. Like, I wanted to be involved. I wanted to do an art, and I was, I think, in the first grade, because that's the picture I think he used was my spring picture from the first grade. And so my mom...
This song randomly has words in it. I'm getting rid of it.
So my mom, I actually think it's still hanging in her bedroom. I will text Savage Sue after this, and if it is, I'll have her send me a picture. Yes. So in my mom's bedroom, there's a big old portrait, chalk drawing portrait that my brother did of all of us, and then there's a smaller one in colored pencil of mine of my parents, where it's like I drew like shoulder pads that like look like boobs because they're so large, like, It was exactly what you would think of like a 5 or 6 year old's like drawing of people, and it just says
Aw.
mom, dad. Pretty sure one of the D's are backwards. Like, it's a messy mess, but that was kind of like my artist origin story. Was always watching my brother do these projects and things, and like he would take me. When he had to babysit me, I would go with him sometimes if he had to go like pick stuff up from the arts store on campus, and I'm still to this day like I need an adult to go to the Blick art material store because I want to touch everything and buy everything and use everything, and I was no different then. And so
Nothing has changed. And but yeah, so watching him do all these cool things, I just also wanted to do all these cool things all throughout growing up. And same with music, actually, because my brother is a musician. He plays guitar and bass, and I just also wanted to do that. And so thankfully neither of those things ever kind of left, if you will. Yeah.
You know, I never grew out of them. Yeah, I only took one art class in my life, and I was forced to in the 8th grade because they just put me in there because I was drawing in all my classes anyway. So they're like, we're gonna put you in the art
Yeah.
class, and there's one way to get me to not do something. It's force me to. And now I don't want to do it anymore. And
Yeah.
so I hated it with a fiery passion. And I also, the art teacher was my brother's art teacher when he was in high school, actually. And so I felt like I had this kind of chip on my shoulder type thing that I had to live up to him because that's just, you know, what creative people think. And, but yeah, everything, all of my creative everything, a lot of that, if not all of it, stems from him.
And I mean, I kind of knew that. Do you think that you would have eventually found an artistic way? Because obviously this is something we touched on in the Discord, was that you were a figure skater for a little while. That is not because of your brother.
No, it's not.
That has nothing to do with your brother. So like, do you think that you would have eventually found your creative mode had it not been for your brother? Do you think it would have taken like a different form?
I don't know, because, you know, I've told you this separately. I don't know if I've said it on stream, but like when I was in elementary school, you know, you got to try out for band. There's no guitar in band. You know, like that's not a thing. There's percussion. But they were all, you know, woodwinds and brass instruments. And of all the things I tested out for, the one I scored the lowest on was the instrument that I picked. And it was just because all my friends were doing it. And so there is a part of me that at least thinks with music, because of that and just wanting to be involved with the other fun things that my friends were doing, I probably would have ended up going that route anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. Because you did band outside of your brother anyway.
Yeah, I did. My brother was never a band kid. My brother was the burnout art student, you know, in the late 80s, early 90s in high school, and not band whatsoever. He was Eddie in Stranger Things. He was the kid that played D&D, you know, and probably would have had a warlock back then if he could.
I had a warlock, just not back then.
He has a warlock, but he might have sold it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I music, yes, I think I still would have ended up going that route. But art in general and drawing, I genuinely don't know. I think that at some point, so this is something you actually might know. I've always been fascinated by street art and graffiti and wall murals and spray paint. And one of the things that never even made it to my old apartment was I have 6 or 7. They're like this thick. They're like a Stephen King Insomnia level thick books of street art from around the world. Each book was a different region. And I think that if anything, I probably would have been pushed that route of the illegal spray paint, street art, and eventually like being actually paid to do murals nowadays, which is a thing. But not necessarily anything else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that was I don't think I've ever asked you that. Like, do you think?
I've never thought about it.
Yeah. Well, because you can't change what you can't change. But I think about things like that all the time. Like, what if I knew that Elsie Binks was going to become Elsie Binks, would I have named it Elsie Binks? And the answer is no. Like, would you go back and how do you think it would have kind of have developed and
Absolutely.
evolved. And so I don't think I've ever asked you that. So that's honestly, that's yeah. Just go tag a bridge. Just go do it.
Listen, I was that kid that ran around with Sharpies and
Sharpied everything.
Hey Whoa and I both, man. We would run around the mall thinking we were, all that, and a bag of chips and a soda, just writing shit on to the fucking side of the fountain in Southland Mall. Like, such stupidity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that was when I had paint markers. Like, I thought I was hot shit because I had deco color paint markers, like, to do that with when I was 13. Like, nobody did that.
Yeah.
I mean, they did, but like nobody did that,
No, that is kind of funny. We drew all over our arms and stuff. We would take Sharpies and draw on ourselves a lot.
Gel pens was my thing on my arms.
I don't know if we did that or not.
Oh yeah,
But I think it was probably Sharpie. Oh, see, that's
Gotta
some
have
fancy
the line art.
That's some fancy artist shit that we did not. None of my friends were artists.
Yeah.
None of my friends still are artists. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I didn't have any artists who are friends because I was in band and choir and drama. But Sparky, to answer your question, what's interesting about that slur is that I didn't experience it, but I know that some of the guys in my life absolutely did experience it. I don't think any woman is getting called a fag ever, to be perfectly honest. My phone just said, I didn't understand. My phone literally just responded, how dare.
How very dare.
How very dare. So like, I got called a lot of things, but fag wasn't one of them, even in terms of band. And I think that's a sexist thing. You know what I mean? I think
totally.
That it's very toward masculine. I don't think anybody calls women fags. You know what I mean? Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I didn't experience that. And I was in high school, middle school, high school from 2000 to 2007. So like, I don't know. I was in band my whole life and never got called that. Maybe totally band nerd. Totally.
Band geeks was what we got called, and then we embraced it and like had t-shirts made and shit, like the band boosters. We all had like the t-shirts and whatnot, but also it was a really niche thing because there were some athletes that were also in not marching band, because you couldn't really be an athlete and also be a marching band. Kyle did. He played lacrosse, but
band dork. Yeah, totally.
But band geek was a thing for us, and like, it was one of those things that we turned around and we embraced, but also we had so many athletes that also played in the jazz band, or they played in the symphonic band, or they played in the pep band at basketball games. And it's it kind of did, and same with the cheerleaders, that it wasn't a bad thing per se, but also we were that group. Our football team sucked. Like our high school football team. What football team? No. And what's funny is that people, they obviously came to the football game to go to the football game, but the real spectacle was the band, because we used to take, we had our own type of, songs like Crazy in Love. I can't stand that song because we played it so many times in marching band because it was a great hype song.
It totally.
Hey, yeah, great hype song.
Yeah.
But there was one song called SOS that was actually
Rihanna?
No. It was one of the colleges down south. That it was basically like the high school kids can play this version of that. But like that kind of drum line, crunk ass, just like big old horn. The tubas and the horns are just featured, and like we were that, like we lived drumline. Drumline was like,
I'm so jealous.
We lived that life.
I'm so jealous.
And part of that was because of where I grew up and just the community in which I grew up. It was very diverse. It was probably predominantly black than white, if I had to kind of generalize it, but it was just, in general, it was a very diverse, it still is very diverse city that I grew up in, let alone high school. And so it was a weird kind of, it wasn't a respect. I will say that it wasn't a we respect you as a band geek. It was we're not going to make fun of you like other kids in the world get made fun of to be a band kid. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, because it was a different culture entirely.
Yeah.
It wasn't like just sad bands that all of my bands competed with.
Yeah.
It's not even the same type of thing at all.
I mean, I don't mean to say, yeah, that sounds horrible, but you know what I
but
mean.
yeah, no,
It's-
I understand.
we were all our own kind of thing, but what's interesting is that it also kind of made us not fit in with most other schools. So
Yeah.
like Inkster, we fit in well with. Wayne, we fit in well with. Cass Tech, we fit in well with, like those kinds of schools.
You
But
probably
like,
fit in better with university bands than
yeah, because that's
than
what
high
a
school
lot of
bands.
us aspired to be. You know, like that was kind of the aspiration for a lot of people.
exactly Sporky. Exactly.
Same. They're so just
DCI is wild. If y'all want to Google something,
yeah.
Google like best of DCI or something for just pick a year. Pick any year.
What's the who is it? Is it the Blue Devils college band?
I don't
That's
know.
always I want to say it's the Blue Devils that we always used to watch videos to get inspirations and stuff because their
That's
halftime
cool.
shows were just But like also that's why I just sit here and randomly grab these and just like it's just that's why because like that kind of stuff's in my blood. That's why I will just pick up drumsticks and just start banging on shit. But yeah, I don't even remember what the original question was, but Blue Phantom.
But it's
yes.
but
Yes,
honestly, it's fine because we had a question about marching band.
yeah.
It was Blumenfaust's question. Asked this in the Discord, and that was he was thinking because marching band is close to cheerleading that maybe you did that.
Yeah.
And I answered and said, no, she didn't do that. And she was like, actually, no, I did do that. So I did know that it happened. But it happened before marching band, didn't it?
Oh my god, I was like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I'm like it was a very young. It was more like a pom pom squad. I feel like than a like full whole cheerleading.
It was good old Cheer America.
Yeah, yeah.
No, so what's funny is that
Us too, D.
when I was a kid, my parents wanted me. Well, okay, one, I was forced to take swim lessons because the house we moved into had a pool, and it was if we're gonna have a pool, it doesn't matter what you want to do, you are taking swim lessons because we have a pool, and I loved it. I love being in the water still to this day, and that went over very, very well. And so in order to kind of keep me active and do things, I was the kid that would run around outside and climb trees, subsequently fall out of them, and then climb right back up it like I didn't learn my lesson. Never did learn my lesson.
Quads, just walking around the house.
So, listen, if I had a pair of quads...
No, please, God. No.
One of the first things I did, like, play around with when I realized the sounds, I told Kyle this, I'm like... I made the quad set from marching band so I could play some of those cadences just because it's in my blood. Anyway, my parents enrolled me in gymnastics and I fucking hated it. And I was that kid where you couldn't, if I didn't want to do something, I wasn't going to do it. And I was so shy. I hated it. It was a social thing that I didn't want to do. I wasn't good at it because I wasn't coordinated. I'm still not coordinated. And I hated it. And, so the next thing was cheerleading shortly after that. And part of it was because my friends were in it. And it was just kind of that phase that we all went through where let's do Cheer America. And we all mostly lasted a year. If I'm lucky, a season. So there is one picture that I know of that we actually found in my filing cabinet. It's
still?
Yes, but I don't know where. There's like 300 pictures in there. You're not going to be able to
Never
find
mind.
it.
You're like, but stop.
You're not going to be able to find it. I will look later and I will put it in
Okay.
Discord.
Fair enough.
But there's one picture that exists, and it's like the entire squad in a parade. And like, there's me because I'm looking dead at my mom with the most shitting look on my face because I was so mad because I actually hated it. I am not like peppy. Like the pom poms, not for me. I do have my trophy still though
and that's
I
awesome.
have my Cheer America
I love
trophy.
That. I love that.
It's downstairs in the basement freezer, like on top of it. But no, shortly after that, and I don't even remember whose idea it was, if it was mine or if it was my parents, to enroll me into figure skating. And I did figure skating for maybe 4 or 5 years. I don't know. But I did figure skating for quite a few years, went through basic 1 through 5, and then they had like they were named after the Greek alphabet, and I couldn't tell you what they were after that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But when I stopped, the level in which I was in was the level in which you start to learn how to do the jumps. And so there was a time where I could like actually, Tanya Harding it, Michelle Kwan, Tara Lipinski. I used to watch all of them.
I feel like that's where it does start to get more dangerous.
It is, and that's the reason why I quit. Trigger warning, blood. The reason why I quit was we were doing a circus themed ice show, and there's a move called shoot the duck, and I don't know why it's called shoot the duck as I'm saying this, but you go down like you're doing a squat. Mm-hmm. One leg stays bent and the other one goes out in front of you like this.
I know that
and
one.
You glide.
Mm-hmm.
One of the girls came up and there was like not a nick in the ice, but just it was being zambodied like, at the halftime show, but there was just a chunk taken out of the ice and she went over it and lost her footing as she was coming up and she got the back of her blade stuck in her shin. And that stuck with me, and it still sticks with me, literally and figuratively.
I hate that I pictured it.
And that was the last time I did that.
Do not Google.
Yeah, don't Google it.
If you're going to Google it, do shoot the duck figure skating.
Yeah. Or roller skating. You can do it very easily on roller skates.
Yeah.
But that was when I quit because it was just like I already had a fear of falling and somebody running over my fingers with ice skates.
And that's fair. Ice skates are
They're very
really sharp.
When I first had my figure skate sharpened and they tell you don't touch it, the first thing I did was touch it.
Yeah.
And that was pain. Yeah, that was a super glue finger shut moment.
Woo!
Yeah. But no, I did figure skating for quite a few years. At the local rec center. It was the same place I had taken swimming lessons when I was younger.
Yeah, and so it's kind of funny, like, that Blumenfaust equated, like, oh, yeah, marching band is to cheerleading, but, like, they have so many years in between them.
Yeah.
That they're actually not related at all, and that's what's funny about that.
So I still had bangs when I did figure skating, which is how I know, like, because I think I got rid of the bangs in, like, 3rd or 4th grade.
That's funny. So before we get off in the marching band stuff, there was one other question related to marching band stuff. Yeah. And MFR wanted to know what your favorite and least favorite things about marching band were. Or maybe just one thing, but you know what I mean. Favorite and least favorite.
Least favorite was the uniforms. So I remember when I told you this, you were so mad. I still have my high school marching band uniform.
Yeah,
we're supposed to return them. Here's the thing. I returned mine. And couldn't figure out for the life of me how I still have a marching band uniform from Romulus High School in my old bedroom closet. Realized that my friend Tommy, who graduated before me, he graduated high school and went straight to the Air Force and forgot to return his uniform. Huh. And I don't know if it was he came back and he gave it to me to return or what, like a year or two later. And then I never did because I forgot. And then I don't know if it was in 2009 or 2010. They got new uniforms anyway, is my point. Because these uniforms were old-ass uniforms. On top of my senior year, I was a drum major. Which that was great because it was just basically a white baggy bodysuit that was not heavy. And that was fantastic. But my least favorite part was definitely the playing the flute. The hat that didn't fit my head because I have a small head. The really heavy, they were probably made in 1991 or 1992. The pants and the big old overcoat with the tails, and then just the shitty black shoes.
They could never find one. I always had to have somebody alter mine.
Because
they could never find one that fit me.
They were fine-ish for me because like I'm a semi-average height, so like they were like the pants were a little baggy on me, but like everything else was just like whatever. But that was probably my least favorite because we did a lot of summertime parades and stuff like that, which is not fun.
It only paid off when you do wintertime ones.
Yeah,
it's the only time it pays off.
Yeah, and even then, playing flute, it's a metal instrument that's ice cold, and that's really not fun.
Yeah, and you have to have open fingers because you can't make it work otherwise. Really.
Nope. So that's probably my least favorite. My favorite. Honestly, it was just the community. It was those are my friends. Those are the people I still talk to today. Hey, whoa in the chat. We met in middle school. and just every band we were in together, every school band, every garage band, you know, we were always in band together. And anybody else that I talk to, like in real life still, be it, you know, him or our friend Kayla that we talk about every so often, people I just even catch up with, like in Facebook Messenger and things, like we were all band kids. Those were my friends. Those were my family. I love that. I cherish those memories. I cherish the month before school started where 3 days a week for 8 hours we were at the high school practicing and rehearsing and doing the drills and stuff in the overgrown baseball field, and I cherish that. I love that. That was probably one of the very select few positive memories of high school that I even have, was marching band.
Yeah, I actually, it's interesting because we've often said that we had such similar experiences in so many ways, and that's just one of the things, is that we were both marching band kids. We both played flute. We were both drum majors. And that's so random. You know what I mean? I did color guard for a year. I don't think you did color guard though.
Do you really think that I need a big old flag to flip around?
You like hitting things.
You don't hit things with the flags.
But you can.
You're doing it wrong.
But you can. So I wouldn't be surprised if you were like, I want to do that.
Listen, I absolutely grabbed one of the flags multiple times and started spinning them around. I was the reason why we couldn't have staffs as drum major, because I couldn't not get hurt. Like, I just, you know, sit here and, I mean, they're like three times longer than
I would
this,
say
but,
they're
you know,
giant.
and I would flip them up and then flip them back down and, you know, and flip it up. And I got myself in the face a couple dozen times.
Just
and
picture somebody, sorry about my flag. Sorry about that.
Me, sorry.
It's fine.
Many a time I grabbed one of the flags, and many a time one was grabbed out of my hand. So you know,
I loved. Here's the thing: is I actually really loved color guard, but you can't do it all. And I desperately wanted to march an instrument too. So as a freshman, I did color guard. As a freshman in high school, I did color guard, and then I switched to flute, and then I was a drum major for 2 years. But it's interesting that we kind of have that similar timeline. You didn't have the color guard part, but you had cheer early on. So like it's kind of, even though they're not at the same time, it's still kind of, you know, ish similarity.
Well, and what's interesting too is in the line of you can't do it all. You know, I had said, like, basically you were either a band kid and you did like marching band and stuff, or you were a sports person. There was very little overlap. You know, the lacrosse team, I actually was a lacrosse manager, which was just like baseball has like the ball kids that like get the tennis. No, that's tennis. The grunt work people, that's what the managers were, and I was one of them for the lacrosse team. And Kyle played lacrosse, and a couple other band kids played lacrosse, and that was one of the very few exceptions of the season didn't overlap. And so what's interesting is that I actually really wanted to play soccer when I was in high school, and I was good at it. But the season was marching band season, and like there were games and practices before the school year that literally they coincided with marching band. And so it was I had to choose, and I'm like, well, fuck no, I'm not going to pick the team sport. That sounds awful.
Yeah.
But I did consider it because I genuinely enjoyed it, you know?
That's what's hard about high school, is that you really have to start choosing, because all the different schedules are so grueling that you cannot do more than a couple things without overwhelming your kid or yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, Richard, it's crazy. Like I hung out with mostly overachievers, so I didn't feel like I was an overachiever until I realized that that's not normal. How many things I was doing, I don't know how I did it. I just didn't do anything on the weekends. I couldn't leave the couch on the weekends. My parents will confirm. If they were like, we got to go shopping, I'm like, okay, fine. And then I literally was asleep on
the way there and on the way back.
And I'm talking like as a teenager. Anyway, I had endo all through my teens, but didn't know. Anyway, my point is, I was such an overachiever. I was in so many things. Everything that I could be in that didn't require an extra skill to be in, I was probably in. It was wild. And I mean, Trish wasn't the same as far as I know, but in terms of all the bands, which there's usually lots of bands.
Yeah.
Like I was personally in 3 bands.
I was in
Like I did so much. And it's
4.
and you want to know why, Richard? It's because when I was in school, and I don't know how old you are, Richard. I think you're around the same age as us, but like there was a really, really heavy burden on our shoulders to do everything you could so you could get into college. And then once you start applying to college, you realize that none of it matters.
The biggest lie our generation was sold.
And that's not because my parents were lying to me. It's not because the counselors were lying to me. Nobody thought they were lying to me.
No, it's the world in general.
But then you start applying and realize they don't give a shit about what you did in high school. All they care about is your GPA. They don't give a shit. And if you took AP classes, but that's it. They don't give a shit about what you did in high school.
You're paying to be there, and that's what they care about more is getting your tuition dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I definitely fell into the category of thinking I had to do all the things because or else I wasn't going to get into college, as if it fucking mattered. Like looking back at it now, it's ridiculous, but you know what I mean? That was definitely the mentality.
It was the times.
But also you've told me that like your school was more woke than that. Nobody put that pressure on you. It was a different culture.
Yeah. So an interesting, related but unrelated thing about my school is, one thing, in 2020 when a lot of the Black Lives Matters riots started to happen and protests and things of that nature, I saw a meme. I don't know if you saw it first or if I saw it, and it was something along the lines of like, how old were you when you had your first Black teacher? Hold on, I'll wait.
Yeah.
And I think you saw it first and said something. I'm like,
I think so.
And I'm like, I was in kindergarten. And then I'm like, in kindergarten, in first grade. And then I'm like thinking, half the teachers in my elementary school and in my high school. I'm like going through the list, and it was a eye-opening thing. Certainly one of the first eye-opening things of how different my upbringing was than hers in terms of where we went to school.
Yeah.
And she grew up here.
Well, I was about to say there was an eye-opening experience before that, is when you went to go home to get your books, your yearbooks. And you were showing me pictures of you and your friends, and I was like, "Oh my god, I was the token
white girl."
Oh my god!
Yeah,
it never because that's the life I was living. Here in Centerline, now it's diverse. It's quite diverse, actually. Yeah. But when I was in high school 15 years ago, there was no diversity. There were a couple Asian kids, couple Black kids. That's it. It was all white kids. I am just, that is the reality of what my high school looked like, and
mine was the exact opposite.
And
mine was
really
very
stunted
diverse.
My ability to understand what the world looks like now.
And I didn't realize, like, I wish Hey What was here, because he'd be like, because we always made the wisecrack growing up. Like, we got that Romulus education.
And and then you tell me about your education. I'm like, that's better than mine.
We got the life education.
You did.
But for us, it was because we were always compared to the nearby schools of like, where we, our location is fairly known to everyone. We don't hide that by any means.
Yeah.
But in the Metro Detroit area, we were compared to, the Novi kids, the Northville kids, the Detroit Country Dre prep school kids, like just the whitest of white people stereotypes that you can imagine from the movies, right? Like those were the schools that we were compared to, and my high school did not fit into that mold at all whatsoever, period.com. We were very incredibly diverse, both in staffing from elementary school all the way up to high school. The staff was incredibly diverse, the student body was incredibly diverse, and we didn't have a lot of the classes that other schools had. Like we would go for band festival and for solo and ensemble is a great example. You would go to different schools to perform, and it would be like for solo and ensemble in specific, it was like, okay, these groups are assigned to this classroom, and we're like, what the fuck? They have a photo lab here? That's a class?
Yeah, we
got
that.
AP Common Sense here, and like all these other like
AP Common Sense.
Just an example of like just the crazy. If there was a school subject there was an AP class for it in almost every school that we went to. There were so many more electives. There were more than just Spanish and French as your foreign languages that you could choose. You know,
Yeah, we didn't have anything but
the most
Spanish
fancy
and
thing was
French.
that we had a CAD class, a computer applicated design class, and a CAD lab. And
I just thought you meant Canadian
no, not dollars.
Canadian
not money.
dollars.
You know, that was the biggest thing we had. We had a fantastic auto lab. We had a really badass wood shop that I always wanted to take those classes, and that's probably for the best that I didn't, because
No,
I
I
probably
think-
have no fingers at this point.
No, I don't think
Um,
that's true.
I don't know.
They would have been watching your ass.
They would have
like a
been
hawk.
watching me. Yeah, that would have been how they got new cameras in the school. I'll tell you that. But you know, it was one of those eye-opening
Wow.
moments for me personally, where it's like, you know, we used to rag on our school all the time about that shitty Romulus education that we got, and then certainly as an adult, and certainly over the last couple years, I've realized how fortunate
Yeah.
I was, and that we were growing up where I did, where, you know, it's. And Kyle and I have talked about that many a time in our life. Just in our adulthood, just how fortunate we were with the life experiences that we had, because we didn't realize
Yeah.
how unique it was that it was so racially diverse
Yeah.
and culturally diverse. We had a lot of foreign exchange students in our school. We had a really good foreign exchange student program. And
Aw, that
it-
sucks, Armut.
it's just wild. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. It's just
That's it.
wild.
That's
That's
wild.
it.
That's
That's
the
the tweet.
tweet.
It's just, it's wild, because I never
is.
appreciated it back then, but
Yeah.
I do now, because we always felt like we were getting gypped out of our education, until I realized that, like, we know about Black Wall Street. That's a really good example.
You were
That
like,
is
"What do you mean you
something
don't know
we
that?"
were
I'm
taught.
like, "What do you mean you know about that?"
Yeah, and it's just something that we were taught.
You know?
You know, and it's interesting. I don't even
Hi,
know what
Peanut.
the original question was, but
I think it was a lot about overachieving, doing all the things.
yeah.
It was about doing all the things and being basically sold the lie that if you did a lot of things in high school and did all the things that you would get
Yeah.
into better colleges, and it's all a fucking lie.
And we really didn't have a lot of things. You were sports, you were band. That's it. Like, those were the extracurricular activities.
Wow, Joey, that's incredible. Yeah, we had tons of extracurricular activities, but we didn't learn shit. Not about the real world
the
anyway.
concept.
I didn't learn anything helpful, honestly. But anyway, moving out of high school, I did not clock when we started. So I usually clock the time of our interviews by when I start the Discord call. And there's no Discord calls. So I think we started around 3:20.
Listen, let yourself and how you're feeling
fine.
guide this, because I ain't going nowhere.
All right.
So
I gotta
don't
pee
care.
again, but it's fine.
I also have to pee, but it's because I've drank almost this entire thing in the last like 30 minutes.
It's fine.
It's fine.
But I swear there was a segue here. So not many people know this. You have technically 2 college degrees. Or was it a double major?
Oh no, I have 2 entirely separate bachelor's degrees.
So I don't think anybody in this chat knows that. Trasha has 2 separate degrees,
I
2
have a-
separate bachelor's degrees.
I have a Bachelor of the Arts, and I have a Bachelor of Science.
You have a BA and a BS.
It's all a bunch of BS at the end of the day.
You
but
have a
yes.
badass bullshit.
Some badass bullshit is for real.
I just got a bullshit. I don't have a badass, just a bullshit.
No, I mean, I was in college for 9 years. I better get fucking something out of it other than 1 bullshit degree. I might as well get 2, right? No, I actually have a Bachelor of the Arts in Communication Studies with a focus on the written word. And then I have a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice with a focus on sex crimes and violence against women.
So if anybody wanted to know where her obsession with Law & Order SVU came from, this is it.
I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg, but here we are.
Yeah. And I just honestly, like, it's pretty wild. Like, I think a lot of people don't know that you have, exactly, Armut, that you have degrees. Like, because it's not outward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, like so many other people our age, I don't use them. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't not use them, I guess, but I don't use them. And so what had happened was, I actually, for the longest time, I wanted to be a teacher. There's still a part of me that is sad that the climate, certainly here in Michigan, is what it is, and is what it has been for teachers for a very long time.
Decades.
Because I wanted to be Michelle Pfeiffer in Dangerous Minds. I just always had that in my head since I saw the movie as a kid.
And where does that take place? Like in Chicago or something?
Chicago, New York, inner city. I honestly don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But I say that because of the teachers that made a difference for me. I have said so many times that our band director, Mr. Henry James, is the reason why I went to college. Because I got that whole light up a black and mild and what the fuck are you doing with your life that you're not going to go to college. And
yeah, well,
that kind of pushed me to be like, fuck you, I'm gonna do something with my life and I'm gonna go to college. And then years later be like, oh my god,
oh my god, yeah.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know, him and Heather Stanley. She was our 8th grade honors English teacher, and then she moved to the high school, so a lot of us had her again for honors English 11, and she taught what we call AP life. Everything was a life lesson about just the way the world actually is and the way the world actually works, for better or for worse. She wasn't going to sugarcoat anything. If we had a question, we knew that she would answer truthfully and honestly. And
that's more for a lot of people, a lot of teachers.
Yeah. And I still, have contact with her to this day. She made a difference in my life, in so many other lives, throughout her years in Romulus, and I just always wanted to be for somebody else what they were for me.
Yeah.
And for so many other people. And so I went to Wayne State University. It's a massive university that is integrated within downtown Detroit. So that was a fun experience. I pretty much for 9 years got to hang out in downtown Detroit every day, and for me personally, getting to see the downtown area grow into what it is now is fascinating, because it certainly wasn't anywhere near as cool as it is now then. And I started in the College of Education, and I was going for English and speech, so I had to take a plethora of English classes and even more communications classes. And 5 years in, got all the way to the time of doing my student teaching. And for those of you who don't know, my mom, Savage Sue, has worked in education since before I was born. Early childhood for the most part, but she was also a middle school assistant principal for a couple years and elementary school principal before she retired in 2020. And she was one of the people that was like, listen, because there was a year waiting list to actually get placed in the student teaching program, and then you had a full year of student teaching to do after that.
So would you have had to take a year off of school entirely?
In order to keep the single scholarship that I had, I would have still had to been taking classes, which is how they get you. And it was specifically in the College of Education that I would have got, that they were awarding me the scholarship. It was, you're awarded this if you have X GPA and X whatever by the time you're doing your student teaching. But you have to be a continuous student part-time. And it meant that, like, it was just a money grab for them, right? Like,
yeah.
I can't do anything that's actually pertinent to the program.
Yeah.
Because by the time you're doing your student teaching, the classes that you still have to take, you can only take in tandem with your student teaching, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
And so it was man, this is dumb. And my mom's like, listen, she had the come to Jesus talk with me. She's like, listen, you make more bartending than any of my teachers. And this was when she was at the middle school as an assistant principal. I think there was 1 or 2 teachers in that school that made more take home than I did bartending, and it was because they had a master's degree and tenure in the district. And she's like, unless you're going to go into math or special education, you're not going to find a job, and you need to be prepared for that. And I had already taken the certification exams. Like, I already had my teaching certification. I still do. Technically, I could go out and be a substitute teacher if I really wanted to. I paid the several $100s for all of that and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all my teacher friends have been telling me the same thing. Like, you need to think really hard because everybody wants to be an English teacher. Sciences are the ones that are more difficult that people, and that are being sought after. So anyway, I decided in that moment that I was going to transfer out and do something else with my life and get a different degree. And
that was already 5 years in.
that was already 5 years in. And so I'm like, all right, talk to a counselor. And I had a 4.0 in the communications department. I never had a 4.0 in anything in my entire life until this moment. And so counselor was like, well, you have a 4.0, and if you take 5 more classes, you can just get a Bachelor of the Arts in Communication Studies. But you need some more electives as well. And I'm like, okay. I had taken a bunch of criminal justice classes as electives because I could and because I'm interested in it. And she's like, hang on. So she, click, 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 clack, clack.
Clickety clack clack.
And she's like, you could actually not just do at first she said double major. She's like, actually, wait, you could get 2 separate degrees and take the same amount of classes if you just continue taking criminal justice electives along with these, and you'll be done in 3 years. And I'm like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. So I did, and it ended up taking an extra year just because of how the class, certain classes are only offered at this semester and this semester, and it was the capstone course for the communications department that kind of fucked me up. But yeah, so 9.
Come back.
Please.
Hold, please.
Hold, please.
She'll be right back. It's fine. Forgot about that.
System booting. There we
I'll
go.
wait.
This is also why I just randomly
Yeah.
is because the microphone is routed through the looper, and so it just will shut off after a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, 9 years later, I have 2 degrees. That's the TLDR, and neither one of them is in education.
Which is hi.
Hi.
And so one of my questions so obviously 9 years is a long time. You were bartending, kind of throughout, paying the bills, obviously.
Yeah.
That is how we met,
Yeah.
was because you were bartending. And a lot of people don't, like, some of you know how we met, but some of you don't. So I think it's always good to, like, go over that again, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never heard about going over that again because there are many people who don't know still. And it's because you were bartending throughout your college, education, that I happened to start working at a bar she was bartending at.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked as the karaoke host one night a week. And that's literally history. That's it. That's the history right there.
Yeah.
I
mean, y'all have heard me talk about the first time I saw her on TV, and then she came into the bar and this, that, and the other.
I forgot about that.
But also what's funny about that is that the bar that we're talking about, I only started working there because when the restaurant that I worked at prior to closed down, we all knew it was going to happen. It was sold, and I worked up till the very last day. I had keys to the building, so I spent that following week helping everybody, the other managers, clearing out everything.
Yes, Dee.
And the only reason why I went to this other bar was because I was not graduating college. I was still in college. It was never my plan to go to this other bar. It was okay, when the Oxford is closing, that'll be around the time I'm doing my student teaching. I won't be able to work more anyway, so this is going to work out great. And then I upended, my whole life, if you will. And so it's really poetic, because if I would have never made that collegiate jump, we would have probably never met.
Yeah. That's a really good question, Sparky, but it's also, the question isn't unfair, but the answer is unfair, because Trish saw me first.
I totally did.
Like, digitally. She saw me on TV.
I saw you on TV and was like, "Woo, girl."
So it's not that the question is unfair, it's that she has an unfair advantage to that question.
Yeah. 1000%.
Because Trish saw me on TV. This is a fun fact. Also, some of you may or may not know this. The first time Elsie Binks ever performed, in front of anybody other than Kevin or ourselves, it was on TV.
Local news.
Local news. We performed at like 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning on a local station. It was probably Fox 2. If you're local, it's probably what it was. So she saw me on TV because I had been posting it all over the place. And our mutual friend was my karaoke boss. And so Julie Haven, thank you, Dad. Julie Haven was training me to be one of... Dee, I love you so much. Bless your heart. Julie Haven was my boss, and that's actually a whole other question, Dee, and I will totally answer that. It's a great question. Julie Haven was training me to be one of her karaoke hosts because she wanted to expand her karaoke. She didn't really have a karaoke business, but once she realized there's this really shitty company in town that does karaoke, they only pay their hosts $65 a night. It's not good. It's not good at all. And Julie started to see that there were people in town who were looking for better options. So she started employing people. She bought a second speaker rig and a second computer, and she started hiring me out to do more karaoke gigs for her. We were working on the same nights of the week. We had a couple other hosts. Jen was actually one of them. Our friend Johnny, not in the band, a different Johnny, was also one of them. She had another one named Jamie, and he was the one who trained me. And so like she was building this business of people working underneath her. And so I was one of her hosts. So when she had a change of heart, she moved to Florida a handful of years ago. And she was just going to do like the opposite of snowbirding. Is that what it is? Snowbirding? That doesn't feel right, but maybe it is. But she was doing the opposite of that. So in the summertime, she was taking a couple months to go gig in Florida and come back and be in Michigan. But then she fell in love with Florida so much that she switched it. And I took the majority of her gigs. Jen took some, Johnny took some, Jamie took some. Over time, it kind of fizzled out because she doesn't live here anymore. But what happened was when she started to leave, I took her O'Mara's gig. That's where Trish worked.
And that was actually pretty poetic because you used to have rehearsal on those nights.
Yes, I actually had to change rehearsal. So our rehearsals, our EBX rehearsals have been Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights. Like not all at the same time, but like depending on, like Johnny used to be in college, so we worked around his schedule. Thursdays are hard because the gigs do pop up on Thursdays, so that sucks. But right now, that's what works best for everybody. So I think at the time it was Wednesdays.
It was Wednesdays, and that's why your hosting gig was Thursdays. And
it was Patrick J's, yes.
Not Vegas Johnny. Had Wednesdays with me.
Different Johnny.
And then
I forgot that was Johnny's
and
first.
Then it got to be a point where you had to switch rehearsal days. And so I don't know if you and Johnny switched or if somebody else took Thursdays, but you started doing Wednesdays at O'Mara's.
Oh, I was Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Okay, I couldn't
for a
remember.
long time.
Oh no, I didn't know that because
Yes.
our dishwasher would go down there, and then I get a text from Erin like, "Hey, you should come
Miss, where
down.
are you?"
Melvin's here. You ain't waiting on him." And then I would literally get Donnie, who was like my big brother. He was on the line. He was one of the line guys, and I would bless his heart. He never called me out on it.
He should have.
He totally should have.
totally should have.
He was too nice.
He's a kind
to me.
soul.
He's a kind soul. And I would be like, hey, you know, I'll drive you home. Like, I don't mind, but like, do you want to go down to Patrick J's with me? I'll buy you a drink. You know, I don't want to go alone. I'm like that weird shy person, which is not a lie. It's the truth. But he saw through it. He knew. He fucking knew. He knew before I probably knew in my heart. You know, that just what was going on. He probably saw it, you know, well before you and I did. But that's
Probably.
right. I forgot about that.
And so it's kind of just universal mutual friends. We happen to be working in the same place in the same time.
Yeah.
And so I'm scrolling up because I need to read Dee's question out loud, which is, did you know Erin was gay when you first saw her? Did she set off your gaydar? And the answer was no. No. You had no idea that I identify as queer or anything like that.
The moment that I learned was you were on break at a gig, at a corporate gig. I was in the office counting money, talking to you. And it was in Facebook Messenger because I didn't have your number yet. And I'm sitting there. No, it wasn't. It was actually text because I did have your number because Atomic Blonde had already happened. And we're just texting back and forth, and I remember I think it was because my ex's daughter had came up just to like say hi and check in, and I had said something about it because it was just like one of those experiences that weren't bad by any means, but it still just like was jarring and unexpected. and you had said something, my girlfriend in high school, and I just literally am sitting there with my phone like open, and I'm just sitting there like, because I had to count I was the one that had to count the Keno till and the main till, and I'm dealing with thousands of dollars in cash, and I'm counting it and counting it, and I see that pop up, and I just dropped all the money, and I'm just like,
It's really funny.
I'm just staring at it, and then I just remember grabbing my phone, and I'm like,
Does that say girlfriend?
oh my god.
Oh my god.
I do declare I might have a shot.
That's funny.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that explicitly because I also remember they were singles that were not bundled that I then had to play 52 pickup with.
Yikes.
It's not fun.
And here's the thing. I can't fault you because I don't know when I started doing this, but I never came out because I did have queer relationships in high school, and I did have things happen here and there throughout my life before Trasha was. You're really the first person as an adult that I would consider a queer relationship that I've committed to, but there were other things in between. And for the longest time, I started to put, as soon as I went to college in 2007, I did a lot of gender studies, and I learned about what pansexuality was, and I learned about a whole lot of stuff, gender fluidity, all sorts of stuff that was just at the very tip of being mainstream in 2007. And so I started immediately. I was like, oh my God, pansexual. Oh my God, that kind of explains why I'm attracted to blah, 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 X, Y, Z, whatever. And so I started to put pansexual in all my bios. So at the time, that was Facebook. That was literally just Facebook. And so
MySpace.
And Twitter as well. My original Twitter is the Elsie Binks Twitter. The Elsie Binks Twitter is literally as old as I think 2008 or something, if you look at it. But I started to put pansexual into my bios. But the thing about Trish is that she doesn't look at social media.
I don't.
So here's the thing, is it was probably there. And this bitch did not know how to stalk me at all. At all.
I relied on other people for that Nancy Drew shit, okay? Ain't nobody got time to navigate social media then or now.
It's hard. It's absolutely, because you don't want to push a boundary and then them freak the fuck out because you read it wrong. So it is scary unless it's something that you've talked about openly. And so like at that point, we hadn't talked about that openly. And then, as things changed and blah, 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 Trish moved to this side of town.
Yeah.
She used to live an hour away. And she moved to Royal Oak, which was only about 20 minutes from right here. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is that I actually didn't, this is going to sound weird, but it's the best way to say it. I didn't want anything from her. Like, I just wanted a friend. Like, I knew that we were kindred spirits. Yeah, fuck all y'all. I want crazy bread now.
I miss crazy bread.
But we can make homemade garlic bread with whatever it is we make tonight. That's going to happen now because of all y'all's. But like, I didn't want anything. I wanted a friendship. I wasn't looking for anything. I was in a relationship, and partly.
I wasn't either, in fairness.
Yeah, like.
I was just happy to have another creative, cool friend.
Yeah.
And she happened to be really fucking pretty. Awesome. Like, bonus? I don't know.
And I just like remember being so excited that you were moving across town to be closer to work, whatever, And I was like, yay, another person who I'm just like this person. And I had like one really good friend, and her name, it was Julie Haven, the person I was working for.
And Julie used to tell us both all the time that we were
oh my God, you guys
twins.
are going to love each other.
You guys are the same person. Like, how have you guys not met? Oh my God. And we're
literally.
like, whatever. And then we're like, oh.
No, she's like, oh my God, I can't wait for you guys to meet. You're going to love each other. But it never occurred to her.
Little did she know.
Never. But Julie knew that I'm pan and queer. And obviously Julie knew that Trish is. So it just never occurred to her.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. But yeah, I don't think that there were sparks per se, but we did hang out a lot before. I think that I started to tell my therapist about her, and I was talking about her so much that when I finally admitted to myself that I had feelings for Trish, I was not out of that other relationship yet. When I started to talk about my therapist to it, and my therapist was like, oh my God, finally, Jesus. She's like my age.
Finally, you've realized.
She was
this.
like, Jesus, finally. Literally, shut up, Julie. Oh my
Oh
god.
my god.
Literally.
Yeah. That.
Actually, yeah.
I'm just gonna randomly hit the kick pedal because I don't want this to turn off.
Yeah,
just
I
so
don't
you
want to
know.
turn off either. Anyway, it's your interview, but that part of the that part of it
I
was
talk
the
about
different
my side
perspective
all the time, though.
That's
like,
fair.
I do bring that up, like anytime that jacket comes up or
On
anything
Ion.
like that.
Yeah.
Ion got them old ass seasons 1 through 5 episodes.
And so it's been roughly about an hour because again, I didn't look at the clock when we started.
Shit.
However, this is the one thing that I usually try to touch on. And because you are streamer adjacent, I don't know how else. That was a great way to say it. I don't remember who said it, but streamer adjacent.
It was Arma. Yeah.
See, Joey, that don't help me. I don't I don't know when we started the chat was my point. But bye. Because you're streamer adjacent, I kind of wanted to ask more or less, how has streaming affected you? And this can be both positively, it can be both negatively, because obviously I wanted to be on for only 3 hours today and it's been 4 hours. So it doesn't really matter at this point. How long?
It was
we talk
barely
about
an hour ago, by the way, because that was when Blumenthal subbed.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool. So we maybe haven't hit a whole hour yet. But yeah, so as somebody who is streamer adjacent, somebody who doesn't stream on their own channel or have their own schedule, but as somebody who has become a co-host of a show, of a channel, how has streaming affected you? I was going to
don't
say
even know where to
positively
begin.
or negatively. Wherever you'd like to begin, positively or negatively.
I don't even know where to begin. I guess I'll start. Well, one, because I was scrolling up to because I want to start with what Sparky had asked. But Pitch, what is Crazy Bread? They're breadsticks from Little Caesars Pizza Place. It's just a pizza chain here, and I don't know if it's the Midwest or if it's all America,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
don't
super
know.
popular in Michigan. And kind of to answer your question from Discord, Pitch, pretty much anything that involves cheese or garlic bread, because I never ate really garlic until I met Erin because my mom's allergic to it. That is what I miss the most because of my food intolerances, is missing out on all the good cheesy garlic breads.
Also, Joey, we are not post-pandemic. Do not say that in my chat. Absolutely not. We are still very much in a pandemic and nothing has changed. So,
But
FYI.
what Sparky had said about me being introverted, that is probably the biggest thing for me, is that you'd never know it, because sometimes I won't shut up on stream. And you watch Erin give me the look. You watch her just shout looping. You watch her just start the track. And then I'm like, okay, fine, let me click this off. That's probably the biggest thing, is that I'm really shy. I don't like the spotlight. I will fade into the background and be perfectly happy. Just, you want to go to the club? Cool. I'll drive us there. I'll sip my little drink. I'm going to go stand leaning up against the wall with my foot propped up, just with a drink in hand, nodding, to the beat and watching everything take a round in like the darkest corner possible. That is me. I don't like the spotlight. I hate it. I operate behind the scenes. One of the things with my day job, it's I'm the executive director of a nonprofit, and one of my stipulations when I started the job was, I am not the face of this organization. If you need somebody to be a public speaker, a figurehead, to do interviews, to go on the news, to do anything like that, I am not your person, and thank you for this opportunity, but I'm not it. That was one of the first things that I said. And it's still true today. I am the behind the scenes person. I will make sure all the wheels are working and turning and greased properly, and yell for help when they're not. But I don't want to be on camera. I am the person that is always taking the pictures, not the person being photographed. And so one, being with Erin kind of throws a monkey wrench in that. And then Erin being a streamer has just literally taken that whole thing and just thrown it away. We joke all the time, like, I never asked for this, and I didn't. And if some of you have been here since the gaming days, Dee is one of those people, and like, it took me over a year of Erin doing music streams to even be comfortable talking on camera or putting my face in the camera or talking in the microphone, and now we're spinning a wheel for me to sing and play guitar with the loop, and oh my god, there's a raid and I'm not Erin. Hi.
That was funny. That was fantastic.
So I guess in a positive way, I know you didn't ask negative, but I'm going to give you both positive and negative.
I said
at some
either.
Point.
Either.
And in the positive way, it's helped me break out of that introverted shell. I'm still an introvert at heart. I am not an extrovert. Extroverted people tire me. I can't. It's just not. I'm not wired for extroversion of any kind.
The great cosplays too, right? True.
And so, you know, it's a multifaceted answer. One, it's helped me break out of that quiet shell, and you know, yeah. And now we have a Trasha cam, and I'm like, yeah, let's put my cell phone on airplane mode for the next 5 hours, and I'll just be a camera.
Right. Who even are you?
You know, and then I forget to take my phone off of airplane mode, which is the best part. I don't look at my phone.
Sometimes if we get a mutual text or something, I'll be like, hey, did you get that? That way I know that you've turned your airplane mode off.
Yeah. Happens a lot more than I care to admit. But, you know, part of it is that I'm a much better speaker because of it. I don't use filler words a lot. I'm very good at just talking and saying things and looking at the camera and things of that nature. But I would also say in a positive way, it's helped my confidence. Like, you know, we talked at the beginning about me having this deep love and interest in art since I was really little. And, you know, one thing that we were always told, at least certainly I was always told growing up, was, you know, when I was in high school drawing in my math class. I love that. That's great. I can hear your mom saying, your grandma saying Trasha. That's fantastic.
That is funny.
But like, I remember like one of my math teachers, like, getting mad at me for drawing in class. Like, you're not gonna use art in your life. You can't make money doing art. And I'm just like, fuck you. You're probably right, but fuck you anyway.
Right. That's
you know, and that always stuck with me. And so, like, you know, I do art projects and stuff for Christmas, you know, for my family, for my mom especially, and my granny, every year. Right? I have for a very long time.
Can't wait.
And yeah.
Oh my God.
And so, like, when I was about the sculpting question, you know, that in 2020 for Christmas, I did those for Erin, and then for Jen, I painted 2 Dead by Daylight perks that were just custom. And one was of a wrench, of a set of channel locks, because we called Jen Wrenchifer, and then one was a piano, because that was when we were all playing DVD at the time, Dead by Daylight. And I did 2 for Erin. I did the EBX, the X logo that's right here.
I was gonna say you can see it in her camera
because of my camera.
That's the sub badge.
That's the sub badge in yellow, and then there's one in our bedroom that is a microphone. And Erin's like, these don't exist anywhere. You should do these.
And because I searched.
Yeah,
I was like, nobody's doing this, babe. This is a whole business venture that you're missing out on.
And so, you know, me being me, I'm like, there's no money in art. Fuck you. I'm not going to do that. And then like 2 months later, I'm like, but what if I did that?
I'm like, are you fucking... I was so offended too, because you're like, so I've been thinking about... I'm like, bitch, I said that months ago. Are you kidding me?
There's a process. Don't fuck with the creative brains. You know this, ma'am.
But seeing your first ones now to the ones that are sitting here, it has developed so well. Different. And they were great in the beginning.
You know, and I
Hi, Allison. Hi. Hello, Allison. How was your stream? Welcome, readers. We're doing a Trasha chat. A trash chat. A Trasha chat.
Trash talk with Trasha.
Yep.
But I and you know, D has one of the early ones because I did a guitar and I sent it to him. My friend Deanna does. Beta has 2 of the early ones.
Beta has Adrenaline and her logo, right?
I did the logo and Adrenaline for I just sent them to Beta as a gift, and then for their birthday.
Aw, Allison, thank you so much for the sub. I appreciate your raid and your sub so much.
Last year I did Spine Chill and another one.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember. I didn't know she had 4.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I did 4 for them. But it just started out as this like project. Let me see if I can, you know, let me test this out, and then I put it out there and I did them, and yeah, Kenway has a arm just full of them, just go like this and imagine that there's like
The whole
10
wall.
paintings, if not more.
Yeah.
M. Duncan has a lot. Sparky has a couple. Iacane has a custom one. Like, it's
D has a custom
D
one.
has D has two.
Oh.
A custom one, and
Here I am.
Devour Hope, I think. But like, I never knew like I could do something that makes me happy and it actually be a financial anything, period.com. And because all my life I was told it wouldn't be. Oh yeah, 11 and a mackerel.
Oh my
I forgot about
gosh.
that. Yeah.
That's wild, Kenway.
And like, if you would have told
I
me,
agree,
if you would have
Richard.
told teenage me that I would be doing this now, I would have been like, whatever. No, I'm not. The fuck is Dead by Daylight? And no, if I'm gonna paint anything, it's probably gonna be Pokemon or Street Fighter characters. What
Which
are you
you
even talking
should
about?
But you should do that too.
A lot of people do that, which is why I don't.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But because that would have totally been the first
There was
thing
a
I did.
hole in the market for creation
Yeah.
of offerings and perks.
And I
in DVD.
started a
And
demand in that
powers.
industry. I would just like to point that out. Anyway.
Yeah.
But and it's grown since then because it made me more confident, and this is like my semi best kept secret because
That's awesome, Duncan.
one of the things, and I've said this on stream in the last month a couple times, is that I wanted to open up doing pet portrait commissions because I do them for my mom every year for Christmas. And just animals in general. I also forgot that I did a Mother's Day drawing of a hummingbird for my mom a couple years ago too, that I should add. But I finally opened that up this week. I set it all up and we did it yesterday, and
It's live, Io.
it's
It's live on the Ko-fi.
Yeah, it's live on the Ko-fi in the commissions tab, and it's terrifying to me because, you know, the Dead by Daylight perks are one thing, whereas all of them are completely different. But at the same time, like, there are existing things that are out there in the world, right? And obviously, every single one of them are going to be different. They're going to be different. Like, Kenway has some early purple ones that are super dark, and then more recent purple ones that are more purpley purple, because, you know, you learn your way as you go, right? And you know, they're all different, but like doing the pet portraits, I'm like, this is something that is important to people. This is something that is, I am doing something from start to finish my own way, my own eye. And it's terrifying. And I'm like, I guess I just got to do it. Right. And after freaking out yesterday, probably 15 times, I finally put them live. And, you know, so it's things like that. It's like the heart drippy heart pride heart stickers that I did, and just like got 20 made to see how the material would be and put them on Ko-fi, and they sold out in 2 days. Like, just things like that give me more confidence in art, because that's always been my passion.
Joey, that's awesome. Exactly.
Which is the roundabout way of answering, you know, how positive streaming has had a positive impact on me, is because I would have never done those things. I can't say never. I can never say never because I don't know. But had it not been for streaming, had it not been for this community of people, our community, of other communities that we are a part of, being so supportive, and I don't know if I would have ever done it. I was in
and I wouldn't have blamed you. I'd have been like, why do that?
Yeah.
To just scream it into the void. Why?
Yeah. And
Why?
like, you know, I was in Lash's Discord a couple weeks ago. She did an art, you know, tutorial night where it was just, you know,
I loved that.
These rather rudimentary tutorials, which were badass because they had a whole like comedic subplot to them. They were fantastic. But it was, you know, drawing basic shapes and things like that and getting 3D images. And there was a couple of us that were in there, and she was like, "Oh my God, you're here. Hi." And I'm like, yeah. I'm interested. Like, literally walked in the door. We ate dinner. I'm like, okay, I got to open up Lash because I want to do this thing.
Okay, but Olivia Benson as Wonder Woman. Yeah, I mean, that'd be fantastic.
I have a random drawing of Olivia Benson that I did many years ago that I should find. But
or
yes.
as Captain Marvel. Either way, very powerful. I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just small things like that just I enjoy, and I would have never gotten back into them, you know, had it not been for the pandemic, but had it not been for streaming and the people, you know, all of you and the other people that we surround ourselves with, other communities that we're a part of, I wouldn't have done it. And
yeah,
it's one of those things where just you know, I am my own worst critic. I am my own worst enemy, and I get in my own way more often than anything. And so taking this plunge and just like slowly adding more things, like I can draw people and stuff like that too. I enjoy it. But it's like, nope, one thing at a time. Give me another couple months of anxiety, and then maybe we'll go that route too.
I agree. I'm kind of a fucking balls to the walls. I'm going to do everything all the time. But I also can see why it's helpful to ease yourself into it.
Yeah. I'm like an arcade. I'm like that arcade game where it's like a spinny bubble of the light, and like you hit the light, and there's like 2 lights in the bonus where you get like 500 tickets, and then like the ones immediately after there are like 1, 2, 5, whatever. I gotta find, like, I am that way, but like it's only those 2 lights in the bonus thing, and like you gotta time it just right to hit it. Like that's how I am with stuff like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
oh, Juggalo, I love it. It says AKA Fluffy now. I don't know when you did that. It could have happened ages ago and I didn't notice, but that's awesome.
Oh, I see it. I'm like, what are we talking about?
It says
AKA Fluffy.
Yeah, AKA Fluffy. I love it.
But yeah, like there's so many. I'm realizing just as I'm talking, I'm like in my head, because I'm like, oh my God, there's so many positive things. And I just, before I talk about the negative, because there aren't too many, the other biggest thing is that I've made more real friends because of streaming than I've ever had in real life.
Yeah.
And, you know, I said earlier, my friends growing up that I still talk to, we're all band kids. They're all marching band friends. Hey, whoa, in the chat I've known since we were 13. Like, but they're very few and far between. And there's only 2 or 3 I can think of that, and he's one of them. Or if they called me today and they were in trouble and needed my help, that I would be there in a heartbeat if I can, type of thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas there are way more people on Twitch that I can say that about than people that I know in real life. Where if, you know, if this is like a great, it's like bad example at the same time, if Beta called and was like, I need you, you know, we would be there in a heartbeat if we could feasibly make it happen. But, you know, there's just one of many people where that's a true friend. There are so many of you in the chat right now that even if, you know, we don't say it, you know, y'all are you are our friends, and not just acquaintances. You're not just names on a screen. You know, it's wild, because if you would have told me that when I was a teenager,
right,
I would have looked at the GameFAQs message boards that I was on all the time, like these really?
Yeah, right.
I'm Igglybuff 20. What are you talking about? Like, no,
Igglybuff?
What? It's a Pokemon.
Oh, I know that, but what? Igglypuff? Buff.
It was the baby Jigglypuff.
Oh.
Gen 2. But like, if you would have told me then, now that was going to be like my life now, I'd have been like, that sounds badass, but like you're wrong. Like that's not how this works.
Yeah, not how any of this works.
But yeah, I've met more people that I can truly call a friend because of streaming than I have in, you know, my 30 years on this planet. Since we started streaming a couple years ago.
Honestly.
Negative, I don't even know. The fact that I'm like, damn, I gotta put makeup on, and then I just don't, which is the best part. Over time, I just stopped. I got mascara on today, but you know, there's so many things that I feel like are negatives, but I'm like, it's actually not really a negative. That's just me being a dick. Like,
no.
I gotta have breakfast, you know, we gotta be eating by 11:30 if we want to be on schedule. And it's like, that's just stupid. It's not even a negative.
No,
it's
just
not. It's not a negative. You know what I mean? I guess I would say like the learning curve of technology and me not understand. I don't have a brain for video, y'all. I am a great artist and I know my way around a camera and can photograph and video things very well. When it comes to editing and putting everything together,
it's me.
It's not my bag. It is her bag.
I love editing.
And I hate it. I want to be good at it. I don't have the brain for it. So any of all of this,
hi, Jessica.
I can't do it. And so the negative, I guess, for me is I don't actually understand 90% of the things that are going on this desk. And if something goes wrong, I'm like, did you turn it off and turn it back on? Because I don't know. Sometimes that is the solution.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
sometimes
I don't know. And she's like, I need this kind of cable. And I'm just staring at her and she's like,
oh, there.
Irritated, like, it's this cable. And I'm like, bitch, what's the difference between a flathead and a Phillips screwdriver? I'll wait.
I know now, okay?
But it's the same sort of thing. Like, there's those kinds of negatives, you know what I mean? But, and I never really there's some times where y'all watch me have to get commission paintings done, and there's other times where I'm just quiet because I have to do stuff for my day job. I have to get stuff done.
Yeah.
There's that negative that I can't really do the two things simultaneously because they're so vastly different.
Yeah. And it's hard because y'all know that the income we make here is not just for me. This is household income, and it pays as many of the bills as humanly possible. And that's because this isn't just 16 hours of Trish's, well, give or take, like between 13 and 14 hours probably any given week. It's not, I'm taking up her time too. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't just me sitting here making money. She cannot more than half the time, I'd say, she cannot concentrate on doing the work she needs to do.
How many times do y'all hear me go, man, I've been trying to write this email for an hour and a half.
And that's unfair, I think that would be one of the negatives.
It is a negative.
From the perspective of me, that is a negative. Is that yes, we are sitting here building a community, getting some income for our household to keep the lights on. Yeah. But at the same time, you have other jobs to do and you still have to save spoons to do them.
And the problem with that is I've said it a couple times. I guess this would have been a good question earlier, is that I do work for a nonprofit, an environmental nonprofit that, fun fact, if you're working for a nonprofit, you're not actually really making money.
No.
Do I get paid for the work I do? Yeah, I'm a contract employee. I get a 1099 every year. But when I tell you that it is like not even part-time work, it's barely even part-time, and it's event-based for the most part. So the first couple years, I've been doing this since 2018, and the first couple years was a lot of rebuilding and rebranding, getting things to actually look professional. Every nonprofit is different. I have a unique situation where the EMA was founded in the 70s as a lobbyist organization for environmental policy and change. And we're still a C6 nonprofit, which if you think about the NFL, for example, is a C6 nonprofit. It is an entity that other companies buy in. So every team buys into this entity called the NFL, and thus the National Football League exists. That is what the EMA is. So there's different environmental industry related and adjacent companies that buy into this organization called the EMA. Waste Management, U.S. Ecology, Republic, Pro Services, a lot of Michigan and like close Midwest, like Ohio, companies buy into it. And for 20 plus years, they would send people to Washington to lobby for environmental policy. And in the early 90s, as that kind of became the it thing, was environmental change and green business practices, their lobbyist position kind of started to not be utilized because these companies were now paying people to go do that. They were hiring people that were strictly meant to go, be at the state capitol or be in Washington to plead their case about why, this green business practice should be implemented for the future and things like that. And over time, in the 2000s now, they stopped lobbying altogether because it was the utility for the organization was unnecessary. And instead, they focused on rewarding those companies for actually doing the things that they were pushing for. So one of the things we do, our Environmental Achievement Awards, is we reward companies and legends of the environmental industry for all their efforts and things that they do. And we also judge the Science and Engineering Fair of Metro Detroit every March. And it's 300 some odd high school students usually. We only evaluate one or two environmental categories, and it's only single projects, no teams. And we award 3 or 4 student scholarships, which is what our golf outing supports and things that we did last month. And so part of, I say all of that because we function as a traditional charitable C3 nonprofit, but our designation is still a C6. So there's no grants that I can apply for to get funding for me and our bookkeeper, which are the only paid employees. Everything else is a volunteer-based, like the board is a volunteer-based thing. we won't be able to have dues once we become a C3 organization if we can. And it's a whole legal battle with the state of proving why, one, we didn't change the designation 20 years ago when we should have, and two, why we should in fact change it now. And so, you know, what is it like working for a nonprofit? It ain't fun. It sucks more often than not, and it's not. I can't say it's not something I don't believe in, because I believe in, you know, climate change is real, y'all. Hello. I believe in, you know, green business practices and protecting the environment. But my services would be better used for, you know, the Joyful Heart Foundation, something sex crimes related, because it's what I have a degree in, because it's what I'm passionate about.
I just figured out what you can ramble on really easily.
Because I realized, I'm like, oh shit, this is about to be a long ass answer.
I'm like trying not to glaze over. I'm
I
like,
know.
oh God.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. But also, it's
But
something
this
I
is
don't
it.
talk about.
But this is the ramble that you need.
This is the ramble. This is the vent. I needed to vent, apparently, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
But it's fine.
It's fine.
So a lot of the things
Concentrate
that I
on
do,
not glossing over.
A lot of things I do, though, it's sending out emails to people.
Yeah.
It's organizing Zoom calls. It's creating a newsletter that doesn't look like a 5-year-old made it in kids pics. It's so many things. It's making sure our WordPress website doesn't collapse on itself. Knock on wood, because it eventually will.
Yeah.
And making things look pretty, and making sure the wheels are turning and moving. And it's very hard to do that. And then also have Erin
Chaos.
doing a Spice Girls song that I also have to sing in.
Yeah.
And you know, last year was, oh, there's a Fresh Prince. Okay, well, let me do that and get that shit going. And there's so many things that are constantly going on in stream where if I have something that I like absolutely positively gotta get out today, like I should have sent this shit for 8 a.m.
I was gonna say it has to happen before stream.
It has to happen before stream. And there are some things that pop up, like when we were at her doctor's appointment on Monday and on Thursday. I have a couple of emails and texts from people that I still haven't gotten to, because I'm like, I'm out of commission. I'm sorry, I'll get back to this next week on Monday. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
Still weighing on me, because nothing happens if I don't do it. But, you know, setting that boundary, one. But two, it's a lot. I have to be in the right headspace. That's all I did last weekend before her appointment on Monday, was just get work done for this coming week. And also replying to chat and monitoring the chat and reporting the bots about want to get famous, because banning them doesn't do anything. Delete the message, you know, report, copy, paste the message, move on. You know, monitoring the chat, seeing a first-time chatter, seeing somebody follow with a questionable username, marking them to monitor, and doing all those kinds of things. I mean, y'all watch me get up to go pee, and then hearing Erin flip out because she got a hype train or a massive raid or some shit. I can't walk away.
No.
I can't toggle screens. You know, it's, you know, that's a hard part, but also completely unrelated to work. My back, there are some days where I am dying and I'm like, I want to cry. I'm still going to sit here because it's more annoying if I'm downstairs on the couch trying to listen,
half.
but I'm also hearing you sing upstairs and my brain can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's, I can't, I just kind of got to suck it up. I personally have to, for myself, suck it up and sit here, but then I just don't turn the mic on. There's no camera today. You know, there's
no spoons.
You know, when I have no spoons, it's easier for me because I am streamer adjacent. I'm not streamer. But, you know,
that's the best way to put it. Is streamer adjacent.
But even in those same days, it's like where I'm like, people don't care. Like, I'm not you. I'm not the streamer. And then give it 5 minutes and there's somebody asking where I am because I haven't turned on the mic to interject with a ramble that is completely unrelated but somehow relevant.
We have this conversation at least once every other month, is that she thinks somehow she's not missed. And I'm like, you need to fuck right off, actually.
It's the inner saboteur that RuPaul constantly references that I'm fucking aware of, RuPaul Charles. I got it. Thanks.
Yeah, my standards are really, really high.
Yeah.
I didn't start off as not a train wreck, We started off with her yelling across the room to me, and that's why she has a microphone. Is
With
because
my
I
bun
buy
bobbling in the frame up there.
So I buy isolated ears. You cannot hear if Jesus Christ.
So I gotta keep doing it so
I
it
know
doesn't shut off. I'm
it
sorry.
just startled me because it was louder than the music.
Sorry.
So like if somebody came in the door right now downstairs, there's a noisemaker on it. I wouldn't hear it.
I would because mine are down really
Yeah.
low. But
As a musician, I
wouldn't.
need it to a certain volume that I don't hear the door open unless it's totally silent. Totally silent. In the room, I'm not talking, no music, no nothing. And so she would be trying to talk to me. We were in the same room, but bitch, I can't hear you. I cannot hear you. So I was constantly going, what? And then she'd have to repeat herself.
And we were tearing down stream every day because I was using this room for other stuff.
Yeah. And so we had to convert this whole room over the course of starting streaming. You know, I was half music, half games up until February of 2021. And then in March is when we redid the room. We got this desk. This became a permanent thing, you know, a permanent setup. And so that's it. But she had a microphone prior to that. And it's, yeah, they totally have different vibes. And so it was hard because she was trying to talk to me and communicate with me, and I could not communicate with her. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I love you so much, but you either need to not talk or you have to have a microphone.
It may be only.
I'm sorry.
It may be only like 50% of the time was it irrelevant to anything that was happening. The other 50% of the time was actually making sure she noticed something happening.
Yeah.
You know.
No, Trasha there's no paint allowed in here.
The paint lives
No,
here.
the paint lives
The paint
here.
does live here. But so part of why that EBX blanket is on there is because it's just nothing but paint. The middle rack is just like, I don't know, 25 tubes of acrylic paint. And then there's like, I don't know, I think 10 or 11 cans of spray paint on the top and miscellaneous paintbrushes and stuff. But
so
no.
she can roll that out, actually, if she wants to.
I used to keep it in my closet in my old apartment and reel it out to my kitchen table, which, fun fact, my old kitchen table that I love, it's a high top bar table, is literally covered in paint because I did more painting at it than I ever did eating.
Sporky. I say that to everybody I love.
She really does.
It's
And
Jen.
then
I love
did
you
it.
so much, but
I never used to say it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I love you so much, but we definitely had cod and not tilapia.
I keep trying to tell people that we fried tilapia. She's like, bitch, it's cod. I don't
Every
know how
time
many times
we've
I
had
gotta tell you
cod,
that.
you've said tilapia, but in fairness, it's because tilapia and tuna were the only things that I bought for a minute.
But
that we
yeah,
cooked.
my dad would try to just like casually yell something. I'm like, what? What did you,
Yeah. You
And
don't
then-
even have to have in-ears in, though, and it, what?
What? I'm deaf.
But
Yes, babe. Yeah, babe.
But
God, lapia. All right, we
long-winded
got to go.
But that was a long-winded way of me saying that I can't multitask for shit. And yeah, when there's stuff that I have to do for my day job, and like, mind you, it's event based too. So like that's when I actually make money, and it barely covers my monthly bills. I get paid once a month, and it barely covers the bills, covers like a car payment and like my health insurance and like one of 5 credit cards. And you know, it's event based. So like with the golf outing, yeah, there was 2 months of that I got decent checks. And then we have another event on September 8th. It's the Achievement Awards ceremony. And so like people can get their shit together in the next couple weeks, you know, I at least have that as well. But then it's just kind of next to nothing until the next event. And in the pandemic, there were no events. We tried to do stuff digital, but it's like it just wasn't working out. And so it you know, that's definitely a big part of it. Whereas I just want to be like, fuck it. I don't want to. I actually had a third job. Fun fact that I don't talk about because it doesn't matter, because it's pointless. It's like quarter time. And I finally in our meeting last week, I'm like, listen, I will continue working and doing things and helping coordinate everything for the rest of 2022, but in 2023 I'm out. Especially if it goes back to having to drive an hour and a half away 4 times a year for an in-person meeting. I'm not doing that for so many reasons.
Yeah, just a lot of reasons.
And you know, I would really love to do that for I call it day job, for my nonprofit job, but it's not reality. It's not feasible. I still got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
It's why I do the day by day perks. It's why I'm opening up the Ko-fi commissions. It's, you know, why I do all these things, because if I could actually do what I love which is just be creative and actually pay my bills. And you know, in doing that, I don't care if I'm working 7 days a week, 10 hours a day. I'm creating, and that is what makes me happy.
Yeah.
You know? So.
And that's, I mean, it's been a crazy evolution of this channel.
Yeah,
and I know
it has.
somebody asked legitimately if Trish would ever just stream, but I think the answer is always going to be no.
Here's the thing about that. And would I consider doing an art stream? Absolutely. Here's the problem with that. Can't paint in here, so we're going to be limited to doing drawing streams.
Yeah, I would have to break everything down for her to paint in here.
If I was going to do that, it would be because Erin's not streaming. And chances are that's because she's out of town. And if there is one thing I'm not going to do, it is fuck with all of her equipment when she is not here.
So
I could be on a video call with D. D could be in the room with me, and I'd be like, you got to hit all the buttons because I'm not touching it.
But here's the thing is that you do have to learn how to use OBS. That is, you do have knowledge of OBS, but not to just go and know how to fix it all.
Not to just do it, yeah.
So Trish runs the Elsie Banks streams.
From Streamlabs, though.
From Streamlabs, not OBS. There are slight differences at their core. They're the exact same thing, but there are differences that are enough different to kind of fuck you up. So it's
a big learning curve that for somebody like me that's not great with video to begin with.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Get a degree in OBS.
Right.
No, she cannot play with my shit. No, she cannot. Actually, I did not say she could play with my shit.
So the shit that I can
Absolutely
play
not.
with is the drum pad because technically it's mine, but I have to turn on the looper
No,
first.
you could stream from your MacBook. You got a great computer.
Oh no, I totally could, but
She could literally stream from her MacBook.
But I would have to upend so many other things to kind of make that feasibly work in terms of like lighting and things of that nature and like space to where it's like, no, I would just do it here.
And there's no ventilation in here. There are blackout curtains.
Yeah.
There's no ventilations in here. Ventilations?
Yeah.
Ventilation. Because there cannot be open windows. The sun is so bright some days that it would totally fuck up my whole lighting situation in here. Hi, Alex. The Streamlabs is to Mac as OBS. Well, yes and no.
I don't mind. I like Streamlabs because it's very user friendly for someone like me, where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, I use Streamlabs and OBS on my.
I like the way OBS looks better, though.
What am I trying to say? On PC, yeah, OBS is cleaner by a long shot. And it's less harsh on your computer, depending on what you're running. So there's a lot of pros and cons. That's a whole hour chat in itself. Is pros and cons of Streamlabs versus OBS versus the ones I have no idea because I've never used.
I will say though that I will never say never. Y'all heard it here first. You know, in a world where, you know, Elsie Banks gets picked up on some badass tour that like I can only feasibly go to part of.
Yeah.
I would probably do my best to stream, and here's the thing, which is not going to be a surprise to you, is that I wouldn't tell you. I wouldn't use your stuff. I would try to figure it out on myself. D would probably be the one to tell you because eventually I would cave and ask him for help.
Yeah.
And, you know, it would be an art stream of some sort. You know, it'd probably be me drawing
I would
or
love
something.
that. I would literally be sitting wherever I am doing my thing,
You'd be
watching
like,
the stream.
Why is this bitch live?
No, I would just be watching. Even if I were home, I'm saying I would literally enjoy that because, you know, when Trish sits and draws, works on anything, I want to sit right there and watch.
Yeah.
And she cannot understand why. And it's because I'm so incapable of doing that thing that I'm like, oh my God, I want to watch this.
And to me, I think it's boring, kind of like how Erin thinks, you know, live learns are boring.
Hate it for me.
Because why would you want to listen to me learn a song? And it's the same thing as why do you want to sit here and watch? Listen, I'm going to be working on this one color for the next 2 hours. So buckle in because pencil drawings are a lot.
Buckle in.
Actual materials. I have a love-hate relationship with digital drawing still. I'm good at it ish, but like
really interesting.
I've learned that I much prefer traditional hand drawing, like pencil drawings, charcoal drawings, you know, things of that, and painting as opposed to digital art. But I love taking, you know, traditional style art, throwing them in Illustrator and converting them into vector images. That I do love.
Whoa.
That I love a lot. But no, I would absolutely just be streaming like painting or drawing or something. Painting's less messy. There's less chance that I'm going to dump paint water on something, get paint on something, you know.
I mean, why do I spend hours watching Bob Ross?
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And but it's hard because she does sometimes paint right here if there's something that needs to be out, a perk or something that needs to be out. She will paint right here, but it's very limited resources. If she dumps something, it's gonna be on the floor, but it's not gonna be on a piece of technology.
But it's also just me putting layer upon layer upon layer of white paint onto something that's like blue or purple.
Usually,
you know what I mean. So it's not like I'm still creating something, but I'm not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
Watching me paint the backgrounds for the perks, it'd probably be fascinating because it goes from one color
it's really pretty,
to this cool gradient effect. And I've only used, 2 or 3 different colors of paint, but it looks like there's, 6 different shades going on. That would be fascinating, but it's also messy because our TV in the bedroom has paint on it. My dresser had paint on it to begin with. It's just everything. The comforter has paint on it. My printer has paint on it because the cat stepped in the paint that I was using.
Everything has paint on it.
Everything has paint on it, whether it came that way when I moved in or not. My art is messy. Erin's art is not. No. Erin's art is loud. Mine is messy.
Yeah. There's a difference. Anyway, my bladder is gonna explode. And I love you so much. I'm gonna do it again. I love you so much, but we've almost talked for probably an hour and a half. It's probably been an hour and a half.
We can do part 2.
We can absolutely.
You got cancellation, you just pencil me in. It's fine.
I don't have anybody booked except for next week.
Oh, well.
I have not booked anybody. I have Clea Llewellyn booked for next week, and that is it. Dish on Trish.
I like that.
See, Sporky, I did my job this week, which was nothing.
She did.
No, we're not going to be here when I get back. We're ending.
I was going to say,
Juggalo.
we like actually ending.
No Juggalo.
But wait.
I'm done.
Real quick, this will not be long. Sporky, I did see your question in Discord. My 2 superpowers. 1, I would have a print button on my brain. Oh. It would function like the Game Boy printers. Like, that's literally what I see for the Game Boy Color.
That's
but,
so
actually
good
quality, like 300 DPI quality, multicolor. So when I have an idea, I could just print it, and there she is. Because that is something I also really struggle with.
That's a great answer. I love that answer.
And my second one would be to actually have an iron stomach that could digest everything. Because I miss some of my favorite foods and foods that I have not yet had a chance. It kind of ties in Pitch's question too.
Yeah, that was a great answer.
But just to, not have a body that hates me, but specifically just have an iron stomach, and now I can eat crazy bread and baby pans and eat beef tacos, and really everything's bread related that I really want. I'm not gonna lie.
Basically,
those are my 2 very different powers that are not like invisibility.
Yeah,
anytime eat everything and be creative.
Anytime anybody asks me that question, I'm like, to be able-bodied again, and it shuts them the fuck up.
See, and I'm not even. I'm like,
I just want to be normal again. Fuck.
My stomach, however, because I want to listen. I missed my calling as a Food Network star many years ago, so that would be, I couldn't do that now because it's boring. Because I want to be on Iron Chef and Chopped and like eat the things that they cook without any issue.
Yeah. No, I would also love that for me. I would do anything to just be fucking able-bodied again. That's my superpower, is to be normal like everybody else. God damn it.
I probably should have wished for that, but I'm like, no, I like food. I want to eat.
It's like if I want to, like, that's the real answer, and people go, oh wow, okay. Like, that's kind of heavy.
Way to
like,
kill,
yeah, but that's the truth, and that's all but what you just fucking said, basically.
I love you so much, smiley face.
Aw, bitch.
Thank you.
Aw, bitch, thank you so much for your sub.
Now I just want crazy bread.
Yeah. Now I'm starving. I'm not going to say a lot of things. We have a lot of shit to accomplish tonight. If you know, you know. But I'm gonna, it's like, it's weird because we're not like on a Discord call. I'm gonna let you go. We're gonna leave. We are gonna leave this screen though and pretend like the call's ending because I have to edit this into one little thing. So thank you for asking all of my questions. Answering all of my questions, because some of those I did not know the answer to.
No, it was fun. I can't wait to do it again.
And maybe next time I'll make a thing that says talking Trasha. instead of Acco talk about it. The Zoom call is ending, but it's not. She's not leaving. But thank you for all your time and all your energy for being here with us today.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. It's an honor.
And don't forget to check out her link tree, because brand new pet portraits are available on the Ko-fi. If you go to the link tree, you will find all of the things, Etsy, Ko-fi, all the social media that you need. I'll see you at the couch, bitch. I'm going to let you go for now, okay?
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Love you. We'll talk to you
too.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.